the key issue that I want to raise is that the concept of femininity and the way it's constructed and was constructed then and now, because not a lot has changed, is generally the opposite of what's expected in a career. All the constructs that shape what is considered feminine is not the construct that's expected in your working life. In fact, it's often the direct opposite. And that's the issue that women have to grapple with. It's that tension. So yes, it often manifests as work-life balance that Shireen indicated. How much time you spend with family or relationship or with your partner compared to your work. But there's a psychological, emotional, underlying thing that happens. And of course, I say this because I'm a psychologist. It's what I study. So mothers often feel guilty about children. And they carry that emotional burden throughout their lives, even when their children succeed. If a successful son or daughter gets divorced, a career woman thinks, oh, did I contribute? Consciously or unconsciously, sometimes unconscious. So let me say something about femininity and its construction. Now, most little girls, including today, and for those of you who have children, think about it. We socialize into being polite, pleasant, smile a lot, and generally being nice, accommodating people. And the key issue that many women struggle with is coming to terms with your sense of ambition. Because to be seen to be ambitious and feminine at the same time is often judged negatively in society. Ambitious men are often praised for having a sense of fire in their bellies about where they want to go, a sense of direction. Whereas women often get judged very negatively for those very same characteristics, because femininity is not supposed to be about that. So when women say, I didn't plan my career, it was accidental, it was luck, or whatever the case, psychologically, it is often about recognizing whether you have a sense of ambition and coming to terms with it. And the second characteristic is that women generally get socialized from a very young age into cooperative behavior as opposed to competitive behavior. Now, it still happens in the university corridors today. So I'm struck when I hear conversations amongst women who might be competing for promotion, same department. Now, we have a promotion system which is ad hominem. In other words, you don't need a post to be a professor. But you must understand that there's a limited budget. So you can never have too many professors at one point in your department. So two women are competing for a rank, and often will sit down and try to cooperate about this. And we'll discuss it, and it's a learning opportunity to learn from colleagues about how to put your CV together, without understanding that the fundamental rule here is competition, and embracing it and understanding that you have to compete to succeed in the way the world is structured. But that whole notion of competition, the world doesn't like women who are openly competitive, unless it's on the sports field. And even on the sports field, when it's individual competition, it's sometimes judged negatively. Or it's reframed as feminine. And I always watch tennis stars for that reason. The most popular women tennis stars are not the most successful. They're the ones who are deemed the sexiest. You will know the names. I use that to illustrate a point about what femininity is seen and what feminine characteristics are generally admired and what is often required in the workplace, and specifically in competitive workplaces. The other issue that is related to these two issues, coming to terms with personal ambition and your sense of competitiveness, is also about being public about it. And as women, we often struggle about being public. about these characteristics. Another one is assertiveness, because it's very easy for somebody to then say, that's an aggressive so-and-so. Or it gets converted into a conversation about how somebody looks, and we've already seen that with the public protector. Hairstyle, nose, and the whole package. You know, we haven't done the same with the males who, we don't discuss really their nose or their hairstyles or whatever the case may be. So the very public nature and what that means for one's sense of being a feminine person. And let me now return to the personal, because one of the issues about the Vice Chancellor position is that it is about personal ambition and it is about competition, but it's about showing both of those publicly. Across the world, most systems of appointing vice chancellors are very public. Usually, university requires that you must do a presentation to at least the Senate of the institution. You must, of course, get interviewed, but you also have to do a number of other public things. Now, about 2 years ago, I was invited to speak in Australia on another matter, not on gender at all. And I picked up a publication, an Australian publication, and the journalist was asking the question about what's going on in the hierarchies of Australian universities, because over a period of time of 2 decades, the number of women vice chancellors had actually decreased rather than increased. So you ask the question, given all the enabling policies and enabling legislation, why doesn't that number move? South Africa is the same thing. When I started at University of Pretoria in this job, I was called by a journalist who said to me, when he started his career, there were 4 women vice chancellors. When he interviewed me, there were 3. He said, what's going on? Now, we have equity legislation. Universities are trying to meet equity targets. What is actually going on? Now I go to the Australian piece because this work hasn't been done in South Africa. But in the Australian article, the researcher was suggesting that there's some issues around femininity and what the job requires. So at the Deputy Vice Chancellor level, there were quite a few women across Australian universities at that time. She had interviewed almost all of them who said that they had no intention of ever applying for a Vice Chancellor post. Now, bearing in mind that that might not be a true reflection, because some of them might just not have planned to be there, given what I've said earlier. But when they probed the reason, it was about these issues, the public nature of the process, how one has to put oneself out there, and if you don't succeed, how do you deal with that? And linking it to perceptions of assertive women, how women who exercise power have to give up a whole other part of their lives, and so forth.